Hey guys, so this is the TRN MT1 PRO, a pair of hybrid in-ear monitors that have really impressed me. And I would say that this is one of the best options for beginner audiophiles who are on a really tight budget. So let's talk about that. Now these come in a really tiny packaging, very eco-friendly, nothing too fancy at all. Sliding off the outer cover, inside the box we get some paperwork, few pairs of different size silicone ear tips, the oxygen-free copper cable that has 2-pin connectors on one end. Now the version I have comes with an inline microphone with a multifunction control button, and it ends in a 3.5mm stereo jack. And of course we get the TRN MT1 PRO in-ear monitors themselves. Now as for the key specifications, so these house a single 10mm dynamic driver inside that takes care of all 3 frequencies, and it has an impedance of 22 ohms. So once again, these would be categorized as low impedance in-ear monitors, but as always, if you've seen my videos, you know the drill. I do suggest that you do invest in a portable DAC, nothing too fancy or expensive, just something that can make sure that these can perform to their full potential without leaving any quality or volume in the tank, and what you get is just the best audio quality that these can produce. So as always, the one that I personally use will be linked in the description below. Now as for the appearance, so the version I have is the white version, and on the faceplate we have gold metal accents, which looks rather nice. It's also got a semi-open cavity design, which supposedly lets air flow and it takes care of the air pressure so that it doesn't get uncomfortable for long listening sessions. Now whether that's because of the semi-open cavity design, I'm not sure, but in general these are really ergonomic, very light on the ears, and there was no ear fatigue even for long listening sessions. Now it's got a totally transparent design, which I always enjoy because it lets you see the innards of this in-ear monitor, so you can actually see the drivers packed inside, which as always I think is pretty neat. Now my only complaint is with the cable quality, because yes, it does feel cheap, but then again, when you consider the price, it's not something worth complaining, because there are far more expensive in-ear monitors that also sometimes pack really cheap feeling cables. So it's not an issue, and plus these are replaceable cables, so if you want, you can always replace these cables and get something far superior and more expensive if that's what you want. Alright, so with all of that out of the way, let's now talk about the sound quality. How did these perform? So if you're an existing viewer, you know that I judge these in-ear monitors based on how they produce the 3 main frequencies that broadly make up any sound that you hear: the highs, the mids, and the lows. The highs, or the treble response, where the really sharp sounding instruments are, the mids, where the vocals are, and the low end, or the bass response. Starting off with the highs, or the treble response, the treble response is what we call sparkly, with a lot of detail. Now one weird thing is that depending on the track, sometimes the treble response will sound super bright, almost going overboard, and then on another track, it's going to sound totally fine. So there is a bit of inconsistency there. What is undeniable though is the amount of sheer detail retention and clarity that you get to hear through these, which is always welcome and which was rather surprising for its price. But for listeners who are treble sensitive, I would say that at really high volumes, it's going to sound harsh for most of you. But if you keep the volume to around 80%, that is the sweet spot where you get all the detail, all the richness and clarity without them sounding sibilant. Instruments like snares and cymbals that fall into the high frequency range sound audible even through all the other instruments and the vocals, which was really impressive. So the highs sound bright, sharp, packing plenty of detail, but at relatively high volumes, they do tend to get a bit sibilant. Next up, we have the mid frequencies where the vocals are. Vocals sound a tad bit recessed and thin, and this is most evident on male vocals. Now by no means is this a deal breaker, because it doesn't really hinder the overall experience, because there is still a ton of detail that these pack, which is so impressive. Now my main complaint with the vocals is that it is a bit upper mid heavy, so it lacks body, which otherwise would have made it sound more immersive and added depth. However, stringed instruments like the strokes of guitars, etc., they sound phenomenally good on these, and they are so well spaced out, and there is absolutely no overlap with the vocals. And I'd go so far as to say that the instruments are actually the highlight of the mid frequencies. So overall, the vocals do a more than decent job, especially with the rendition of the instruments, and the TRN MT1 PRO is hitting way above its price range. And finally we get to the low end, or the bass response. Now the bass on these are what caught me off guard, because they are thick. These pack a mean mid-bass slam, and surprisingly, there is also hints of the sub-low rumble that you get depending on the track. Now for the most part, the bass is very hefty, it's thick, it's clean, it's undistorted even at max volumes, and it just adds that layer of immersiveness in the track that you're listening. Now these oddly remind me of the KZ ZSN Pro X, which is also known for its hefty bass response. I would still say that the ZSN Pro X wins overall because it had that slight edge in terms of the resolution, but for bass heads on a budget, the TRN MT1 Pro is an absolute win. Now as for the soundstage, it is sufficiently wide with nice imaging, and even for gamers, this would do a decent job. Now as for the inline microphone, it does a decent job as my voice was clear on calls and there was no issues whatsoever. In summary, the TRN MT1 Pro has impressed me beyond what I thought was possible. What we have is yet another amazing beginner audiophile in your monitor that sounds powerful, really deep and punchy bass, and it's something that is really fun experience each time you put these on. So for beginner audiophiles, it's an absolute no-brainer. You guys should definitely invest in this. So there you have it, guys. That was my in-depth review of the TRN MT1 Pro in-ear monitors. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any other questions, do let me know in the comment section below. As always, the link to this product and other in-ear monitors will be given in the description. I would really appreciate if you use those links to make your purchase. That way, you guys will be helping me run this channel and I can produce more such high quality and helpful content just for you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video, and as always, I'll catch you guys very soon in the next one. Cheers.